My name is Robert Sumwalt, and I am a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. And with us this morning is Ralph Hicks. Ralph Hicks is the investigator in charge for this accident. This morning I'd like to tell you our progress of the investigation. I'll start by telling you what we have done, what we did yesterday, and then get into what our plans are, what we are currently doing today, and what our plans are for the rest of the day. Very busy. There's a lot going on, but I want to stress that this is just the very beginning of our investigation. In fact, today is our first full day of the investigation. Yesterday I mentioned that we had 15 members, 15 people of our NTSB GO team that are here, and now we are being assisted by representatives from the Federal Aviation Administration and also representatives from the aircraft manufacturer, Beechcraft, and they prove to always be very beneficial to us. For example, the aircraft manufacturer, they can recognize the components of the aircraft that we're looking at and provide great assistance to us in background information that we need concerning the design of the airplane. We have received air traffic control data, and when I talk about ATC data, I'm referring to voice communications and radar data. And of course, the voice communications would be the pilot to controller communications. We have reviewed those communications between the pilot and Atlanta Center, as well as Augusta Approach Control. And we also, the radar data, depending on the location of where this radar data is obtained from, we usually get a radar hit about every 4 to 12 seconds. And those radar data is just really just a blip of data that's printed out in tabular form, but it points out the aircraft altitude, heading, usually ground speed. So we are able to oftentimes get a lot of useful information from the radar data. And according to the information that we've received regarding ATC, prior to the accident, this was a normal flight and there were no distress calls or any unusual comments. Weather at the time of the accident was clear skies, visibility 10 miles with calm winds. Yesterday, our investigators documented the scene. We've identified what in investigators' vernacular we refer to as the four corners of the airplane, and this would be the two wingtips, the left and the right wingtip, and the nose and the tail of the airplane. And again, this is just one of the things that our investigators always look for. They want to identify the four corners of the airplane to make sure that the aircraft is intact prior to impact, and that's exactly what we found. We found everything the airplane was pretty much, it was intact prior to the initial impact with the utility pole, and then later the trees. We have photo documented the wreckage extensively, and also yesterday the Georgia Bureau of Investigation conducted a detailed survey of the accident site. Yesterday, we conducted a visual inspection of the runway, and during the visual inspection, we're looking for anything that can be potentially related to this accident. We're looking for abnormal tire marks, debris that may have come from the aircraft, and any potential witness marks that we may have on the runway. And our inspection of the runway did not find anything unusual. We've also tested the runway lights, and we found that their operation was normal. Yesterday I mentioned that there was some airport surveillance video, and we came and took a better look at that yesterday, still looking at it just on a computer monitor. And the airport surveillance video just briefly captures the accident airplane. I'll have to say that the granularity of the video, it is grainy, and it is It's dark because, of course, the accident happened at dark. So we will be sending that video to our laboratory in Washington, D.C., and having worked and seen those folks in the lab work, I'm pretty amazed at the information they can extract from some video like that. So that will be undergoing extensive examination in the future. We've also had several witnesses to come forward, people that either heard or saw something, and we appreciate very much their coming forward and talking to us. We've interviewed 5 witnesses, and their statements will be compared to the physical evidence. And that's usually what we do. We want to go out and collect all of the information, whether it's a witness statement or physical evidence. We're here just pretty much to collect that information, and then we will then take their statements and see how that fits in with the total scheme of the accident. We want to plot out where they were exactly located when they heard or saw the accident. Both pilots did survive the accident, and we have established initial contact with the first officer. He and the pilot, he and the captain, will be interviewed at the appropriate time. Today, we all know it's a nasty day outside, but we are already in the process of beginning to remove wreckage. And of course, as a part of going through the wreckage, yesterday we said that we had not located any potential black boxes, any recorders, but as we start picking up wreckage, we do think if there are recorders there, then they will come to light as part of the wreckage retrieval. As the investigation continues, we will continue to interview any witnesses that may come forward. We will be collecting the pilot's flight history, any training schedules, any training that they may have undergone, their schedule, flying schedule, and their experience. We also go back and conduct what we call a 72-hour history, where we want to go back and look and see what was going on in their lives, any pressures, stresses, how they were feeling. That is standard for all of our investigations, to try to get a 72-hour history of what the operators may be experiencing. We'll be gathering any maintenance records associated with the aircraft. And so really, we've done a lot already, and there's a lot that needs to be done, but we are just where we should be at this point in an investigation. This, as Terry will discuss in just a few minutes, this will be our last on-scene press briefing, and he will explain how the release of information will be coming after we leave. But I want to emphasize that we are here just to collect the perishable evidence, the perishable information, other things we can obtain downstream. But that information that can go away with the passage of time, that's what we want to get now. So I will be glad to take your questions.
Can you tell us, even though it's grainy and dark, could you see if the plane touched the runway before?
That's a great question, and the question was, from the video, even though it's grainy and dark, are we able to tell whether or not the airplane touched down? And no, we are not able to from that video. We were certainly hoping that would have provided some information for us, but it's not just from looking at it on a computer monitor. It is not something we can tell, but it will be undergoing extensive analysis in our labs. And it's just, you know how a security video is. The camera is just oriented, in a certain field of view. There are many cameras around the airport. This one happened to be motion activated, so as soon as it detected the airplane, the camera activated, and so it was just a very short period of time that the airplane was visible.
Were there any cameras on the property for Milliken?
Very good question. Are there any questions on the property for Milliken? And we will be talking to them to see what they have, and so that's a great question right there. Thank you. So we will be talking to them and seeing what we can learn.
How will the weather affect your investigation, if at all, having the rain this morning, does that change the way the debris fell, or had you already mapped that enough? Does it affect that?
Yeah, the question is, how does the weather today? Everybody here knows it's a crummy day. Those watching on the video cast may not know how bad the weather is here. They're looking for 2 to 3 inches of rain today. How will that affect being able to remove the wreckage? And first of all, we've been able to document already what we need to document. So now it's the issue of retrieving that and putting it onto a flatbed truck. So obviously with the weather like that, it's going to be very slick. It's the site, I tried to describe it yesterday, but I didn't really say that it's on a hill. It is on a slope, so it will be slippery. The leaves and the ashen material gets very slick when it's wet. So it will slow down the actual recovery, but it will not affect the documentation of the wreckage since we've already done that. So thank you for your question.
Besides the voice recorder, what other perishable items are you going to be looking for?
Well, what types of perishable evidence are we looking for? And witness interviews are a good thing that can change with the passage of time. We would say that other perishable evidence would be documenting the wreckage, which we've already done. So those things that can go away with the passage of time, those are the things we definitely want to capture while we are here. But going back and getting an air traffic control tape, which by the way we've already done, but we can do that in a week. But our other things, we wanted to document the wreckage yesterday before the weather moved in. So I hope that gives you some sort of an idea of the types of things that we're looking at while we are here. So much of this can be done after we leave. And in fact, when the wreckage leaves, that's where the investigators will really start combing over it. Will go to a secure location in Georgia, and it will be that's where they will really start pulling apart the components and looking at it. But that can be done next week or next month. It's just right now we're here just to collect that perishable information.
Sorry, can you tell us if the pilot has flown that aircraft in and out of this airport before?
Do I know if this pilot has flown the aircraft in and out of this airport before? It's my understanding that the aircraft was based here, that he flew in and out of this airport many times.
Through some online records, we found that a notice to airmen was issued that the PAPI wasn't working at this particular facility. Was that active at the time that the flight came in, and have y'all investigated that a little further?
So was the PAPI, or Precision Approach Slope Indicator, was that Precision Approach Path Indicator, as it's now called, was it NOTAMed out? Was it inoperative? I believe that NOTAM was in effect at the time of the operation, at the time of the accident. However, this airport does have an instrument landing system which provides vertical guidance to the runway as well. So a PAPI gives you visual indication of the slope to the runway, but you have electronic guidance to the runway as well. So I believe the PAPI was NOTAMed out. We talked about that on the flight down.
It was NOTAMed out, but we believe it was working.
Is there any way to prove that it was working if it was still NOTAMed out?
Yes.
And y'all are saying that it was working properly?
Based on the indications right now, we believe it was working at the time.
But y'all are still double checking that?
Still looking at it.
Thank you.
And ILS was in use.
The ILS was operational at the time of the accident. Yes, ma'am.
As you put it yesterday, has your investigation thus far yielded any indication why some perished and some did not?
And the question is, have we been able to determine why some perished and others did not? And that's a very complicated issue, and that will be part of our long-term objective, is to look at the accident survivability, to look and see why, how the aircraft came apart, where the fire propagated, and so that will be part of the longer-term scheme of analysis to determine that. 2 more questions.
Do you have evidence enough to know whether or not an on-site air traffic controller would have made a difference?
Do we have enough information to know whether or not an on-site air traffic control, a control tower here would have made a difference? And that would be analysis. And so we will be looking at the effect of air traffic control, whether or not that may have played an issue. We will be looking at that. So last question. Okay, well, that was an easy last question. Thank you for that one. So Terry's going to make a few announcements, and as always, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.